Mars, the god of war, who also rules our drive and motivation, libido, and relationship to conflict, is moving into Virgo June 17th through August 6th. This is a get shit done transit. Hello, my name is Eliane-Nicole. I'm your astrologer and tarot reader, and in this video I am going to talk about the transit of Mars into Virgo. But first I want to say, if you're watching this on Instagram, I'm just going to post the first 3 minutes here. The entire video will be available on my YouTube channel, Eliane-Nicole. Summer in Los Angeles already. My YouTube channel is my name, Eliane-Nicole. Please find me there. I'll put a link in the profile bio of my Instagram to get there. If you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Please hit the notification bell so that you're notified every time I post a new video. Please like, please comment, please share. It helps me in the algorithm and to grow my business and my community. And it puts me in a position to continue to give these free astrological offerings. If you're watching this on Instagram, please make sure that you're following astrology.tarot.Eliane-Nicole. Please like, please comment, please share. It's free for you and very helpful to me. Also, there will be a link in the profile bio of my Instagram to book a reading with me. Go directly to my website, Eliane-Nicole.com, to book a reading. And if you're watching this on YouTube, there is a link in the description below to go directly and book a reading. And now, without further ado, I'm going to get into the translation of Mars in Virgo. And this 6-week transit is an opportunity to get a lot done. Mars is the planet of our drive and our motivation and our desire. And Virgo is the sign of, organization and perfection and the daily routine. And so this combination gives the ability to kind of have, streamline and organize some area of our life, whichever house Virgo rules in your chart. And if you don't know the house that Virgo rules in your chart, I encourage you to contact me for a reading. We can do your chart and I can walk you through. Astrology works best when you work one-on-one with an astrologer, and I would love to read for you. I read on Zoom, so I can read for people anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. And depending on the house that it's moving in your chart, it might manifest differently for you. The people who it's going to affect most personally is obviously Virgos. So if you have a Virgo sun, moon, rising, or midheaven, at some point in the 6 weeks, Mars will be touching in these very personal places in your chart when it reaches that degree. And so you will be having a specific Mars transit. Also, for people who are Pisces, sun, moon, rising, or midheaven, this will be a personal transit for you at some point in the 6 weeks. Mars will be opposing one of your placements. This can be difficult, and I'll talk about this more in the video. If you are the other mutable signs, Gemini or Sagittarius, if you have sun, moon, rising, or midheaven in either of those signs, at some point in the 6-week transit, Mars will be squaring your personal planet. And so you'll have a Mars square. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about the nature of these Mars squares and these Mars oppositions to people who have, Gemini, Sagittarius, and Pisces placements. Now, if you have a Virgo sun, moon, or rising, or a Taurus sun, moon, or rising, at some point in the 6 weeks, Mars will be trining your personal placements, a very different kind of energy, very harmonious, very beneficial aspect I'll talk more about also in this video. And then if you have Cancer or Virgo placements at some point this Mars transit will form a sextile. And so, you know, and that's a whole different kind of energy. I will also talk about that in this video. But before I get into that, I just want to talk a little bit in general about Mars. Okay, so Mars is the planet, again, he's the god of war. And normally we're going to experience that on a collective level. And so astrologers, when they're looking to what's going on with the wars in the world, they're always going to be looking at what's going on with Mars. And in general, as Mars moves into Virgo out of Leo, this becomes less of a performative time around war matters and more of a time where generals and leaders are perfecting and exacting their strategy. You know, they're organizing their forces, they're preparing for the next phase, they're improving upon their strategies. You know, things are getting very serious and focused. Mars and Virgo can also be a time where a lot of people are called to enlist in the service, because Virgo is a sign of service and Mars is war. And so, you know, now that's on the collective level, but you know, also for the collective, just for like people out and about in the streets, you know, Mars will always kind of give the vibe of like, you know, what's the mood in traffic, and you know, what are people's levels of being able to deal with irritations and frustrations just out and about, like if you're out in public, you know. And Mars in Virgo is, you know, it's in an earthy sign. And so when Mars is in Virgo, you know, we are driven to perfection. That can kind of be the good and the bad, you know. In that sense, it can be a very high achieving kind of transit, but at the other hand, the perfectionism can be a little toxic if taken too far. Mars in Virgo is very exacting. It wants to streamline. It's driven to streamline, to organize, to improve, to make things more efficient. Many people will find themselves, excuse me, I'm gonna have a little tea. As Mars enters Virgo, many people may find themselves driven to or motivated to start preparing for the winter. Literally, like the winter that's coming, like winter 2025. Excuse me, I have this little cough. I'm getting over a cold. Or preparing for the winter of, like, you know, the worst case scenario that can come in any given situation that's going on in life. Virgo, because of the time of the year it is very much associated with this, you know, sense that winter is coming and that we must be prepared. Judgment Day is before us, and we have to be good. We have to be perfect. We have to be prepared. We have to have everything that we need. And so a lot of people are going to be feeling these kinds of impulses and desires and drives as, you know, Mars is in Virgo. And people, also Mars is in Virgo is very much about purging, detoxing, you know, editing, cutting out all of that which is not necessary, taking away all of that which is not necessary, so that we are left with whatever is the perfect form, you know. And you know, Virgo is a sign that's a lot about health, you know, mental health, physical health. the daily routine, our daily habits, you know, fitness, exercise, you know, eating, how we eat, how we nourish our body. And so Mars in Virgo is a great time if you want to start a new health regimen or a new eating regimen. It will be very supported by the cosmos at this time, a new workout regimen. Mars in Virgo is a great time to start that. You know, for writers, Mars is in Virgo is a great time for the editing process. Never had that happen in a video. I don't want to start over. So I think I'm going to keep it. Anyway, yeah, speaking of the editing process, I need to know how to edit that. But yeah, so Mars Virgo, so goofy. I've never like had a cough. I've never had the camera fall. Anyway, here we are. So Mars and Virgo, yeah. Now Mars and Virgo, I want to talk about some of the aspects that we'll be making. Oh yeah, on the collective also, you know, Virgo rules service industries, and Virgo also rules labor. And so Mars and Virgo indicates that there will probably be labor disputes and, you know, maybe issues or challenges around essential workers that are going on, you know, around farming, you know, because Virgo is about the harvest as well. And so Mars will bring tension and conflict to those areas. Yeah, what else do I want to say about that? Oh yeah, in our bodies, Virgo rules the bowels. So Mars and Virgo can bring like irritable bowel syndrome to people who are experiencing a personal Mars transit. Mars and Virgo transit, especially if it's like in one of the houses that has to do with your body, like the first house or the sixth house or even the fourth house in some cases. And also I wanted to say that this Mars, because it's in Virgo, it's ruled by Mercury. So the condition of Mercury is always going to affect the vibe of the Mars. And, you know, Mercury is the planet of our intellect, how we think, how we speak, how we listen, how we learn. And so Mars in Virgo is, you know, very efficient in its studies, and, you know, it's very smart, and it's very, you know, focused, and it's very, you know, dutiful in terms of its, you know, daily routine, you know, but the downside, the shadow side of the Virgo energy is, I mentioned it, perfectionism, but, you know, like worry and anxiety, you know, negative thinking, like worst case scenario thinking. Also getting so caught up in the details that you can't see the big picture, not being able to see the forest for the trees. It can also be sharp words, and being overly critical of one's self or others. So all of that can be the shadow that can come up with the Mars in Virgo if you get a rough transit like a square or an opposition. Which brings me to, I wanted to say, for the Pisces people out there, when Mars reaches the exact degree of the opposition to your personal planet, if you have Pisces sun, moon, rising, midheaven, even if you have Pisces, Venus, Mars, Saturn, or Jupiter, really at some point in the 6 weeks it will hit. And likely this is going to have to do with something about, you know, whatever your dream is versus what the realities are. Or it's going to be a situation where there's a lot of mess and chaos and confusion somewhere that you have to get organized and get on top of. It can also be a situation where your faith is being tested by what's happening in the realities around you. It can also bring up a health issue that needs your attention. It can, also bring up, an emotional issue, hurt feelings over someone being critical in a harsh way. It can just be experiencing some kind of oppositional, force. And so that's kind of how the Pisces opposition, some of the ways it'll play out. I didn't by any means mention all of the ways, but that's most of the ways. And then if you have Gemini placements, this square, as Mars in Virgo squares your placements. So the Gemini Virgo squares are going to be a little bit different because it's like they're both ruled by Mercury, so they do have that in common. Gemini is the air, mutable, young temple of Mercury, and Virgo is the earthy, mutable, yin temple of Mercury. And so, this Gemini Virgo square can be very productive, even though it's a square. It's a harsh angle, a 90-degree angle. So it requires action of some sort. But it's in the realm of words and ideas, and as Mars squares Gemini placements, they can find themselves getting into arguments, who's right, who's smarter, who knows better, who knows more, kind of things. Battle of the know-it-alls can happen. Sharp words can be exchanged. Clever criticisms can be thrown around. But, again, it can also be great for building the story in a writing project. And it can also be really great for the editing process and the writing, for, just like, quote unquote, killing the babies, as we say. Sometimes we have to do in the creative process, and artists know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get into that now. I'm not talking about literal babies. I'm talking about when you get attached to something in your work. And anyway, but it just doesn't serve a purpose to the ultimate story. So that's kind of the nature of the Virgo Gemini squares. And there can be some problems, I think, for students there, and, difficulties with study or understanding or comprehension, or, things like that with that. And so that's for my Geminis out there. And for my Sagittarius is out there, Sun, Moon, Rising, Midheaven, even if you have Venus, Mars, Saturn, or Jupiter, at some point Mars in its 6-degree journey will aspect by degree one of your personal planets. And with Sagittarius, it's a different vibe, because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter and Virgo is ruled by, I wanted to go back quickly to Gemini and Virgo. When I said what I like about this square is that Virgo, the tension or the challenge that Virgo presents to Gemini will bring Gemini's great ideas into manifest form. So I like that. And that's the advantage of those Mercuries working together, even though those Mercury ruled signs kind of having that simpatico, even though they're in a square. Now, Virgo and Sagittarius, to my Sagittariuses out there, it's a different vibe. And again, you know, Sagittarius just wants to be optimistic and positive about the future. And here comes Mars in Virgo, pointing out all the problems, being negative, talking about all the worst case scenarios that can happen. And Sagittarius doesn't want any of that. They just want to be optimistic and, you know, shoot for their target and think about the big picture and go on the adventure. And Virgo is like, you know, here are all of the realities of the situation. And so it can kind of feel like for Sagittarius that Mars in Virgo is raining on their parade with reality and raining on their parade with, you know, just details that need to be seen to, and, you know, organization that needs to be done, and systems that need to be streamlined before the Sagittarius adventure can begin, or before the vision, you know, can realistically start to take form. So there's a little bit of that going on with the people who are experiencing, my Sagittariuses out there. When you experience the Mars square, that can be kind of the feeling. There can be a sharpness to it, you know. Again, sometimes this comes in the form of sharp criticism, but there can also be just the sharpness of like reality and what needs to be dealt with, you know, realistically, and where you need to become more organized and streamlined. And oh yeah, and for Pisces and Sagittarius, I feel like this Virgo Mars is really, maybe for some Pisces and Sagittariuses, pinpointing addictions that are wearing on your health somehow, that need to be addressed. And so I kind of went, and then for Taurus Taurus and Capricorn, this Mars and Virgo will be trining your aspects at some point. And so Earth trines are great because they bring material gifts. So, you know, as Mars, you know, for the Taurus trines, there could be great returns on investments. I mean, for the Taurus and Capricorn trines, you can get, you know, material, like tangible returns on investments. You can receive gifts, financial or otherwise. It's like manifesting. You know, there can be things that you've been working on that are now taking form in the material world. In general, this is a very beneficial and I think that you'll be able to have this will be a very high achieving time for you as Mars moves past your placements. And these aren't long transits. As Mars moves past people's placements that I'm talking about, this all takes place within 6 weeks. He travels that 30 degrees. And so, you know, he's going about 5 degrees a week. And so, you know, the transits, as they build and perfect and go, as he comes to your personal planets, I mean, yeah, it can be a couple weeks, you know, that I'm saying that you'll feel this. And for Taurus and Capricorn, you're really going to be able to get a lot done. You know, you're really going to be able to just like get organized, purge, cleanse, detox, streamline, and make systems more efficient. It's going to come very easily, I think, for Taurus and Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising. And yeah, and then for Cancer and I said Cancer and Virgo earlier, but I didn't mean that. I meant Cancer and Scorpio. For Cancer and Scorpio, the two water signs, it's going to create a sextile with your personal placement if you have Cancer or Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising at some point in the 6-week transit. And this is very fertile. This is an opportunity to, you know, for those who are trying to conceive, this is an opportunity to actually conceive, to get pregnant. But it's also an opportunity to conceive more figuratively, like, you know, to have ideas that you can nurture and grow, you know. So there's an opportunity for creativity. There's an opportunity to grow things because it's earth and water. So whether that's growing plants, growing hair, growing babies, growing families, growing homes, growing businesses, you know, did I mention gardens? You know, whatever it is that you're trying to grow, growing money, did I say that? Anyway, whatever you're trying to grow, there's opportunity with a sextile. It doesn't mean that it lands in your lap, but opportunities are being presented to you and you have to interact with them. You have to co-create with the energies. And so that's why it's good to know the astrology. Look at where it's happening in your chart and have awareness. Like, look around at your life and be like, oh, that's that part of my chart. Let me pay attention to this. Let me cultivate this opportunity instead of just letting it pass by. I heard one of my teachers recently say that sextiles are like that aspect, or like two strangers walking past each other on the street who have a little attraction and maybe smile at each other, but do they just keep walking or do they stop and talk? That's the sextile. So yeah, so Mars, so now I want to talk about some of the mundane aspects that are happening. And the mundane aspects are, on June 19th, he's forming a quincunx with Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries. And I don't normally talk about the quincunx aspect because there's just so many other aspects that are more prominent usually and so much to talk about, and I don't want to make my videos too long. But I want to talk about this one because Mars is the ruler of Saturn and Neptune, who are almost conjoined in Aries. They're basically in a conjunction, although the exact conjunction is February of 2026, and I've been talking about this in other videos. If you watched Neptune into Aries video, watch the Saturn into Aries video. These are good videos to watch because Neptune will be in Aries for 14 years. Saturn will be in Aries for kind of the next 2 or 3 years, a small portion back in Pisces at the end of 2025. But in general, these are good energies to get to know because we're going to be living with them and working with them as big themes in our lives over the next years. And so this Mars is a 6-week transit. And so it's a shorter transit, but it's, in the beginning, it's really interacting with this newly formed, you know, Saturn, Neptune conjunction in Aries, which is so indicative of the new world that we're in and this new start that we're making in this new world. And so the quincunx aspect indicates that an adjustment needs to be made. There's an awkwardness that may be causing irritation or discomfort, and there's an adjustment that needs to be made. And so I feel like Mars and Virgo, being the ruler of this Saturn and Neptune conjunction, even though it's an awkward aspect, Mars is coming in and adjusting systems and streamlining systems so that they're more aligned with the new world, because these old systems aren't as efficient in the new world that we're in now. And so I think there's a lot of that for all of us during this 6 weeks, is adjusting our systems, adjusting our daily routine, adjusting our eating habits, our health habits, our workout habits, you know, cleansing, purging, decluttering, adjusting our space. all of these things. And for the collective, this is happening, which is what this June 19th aspect shows me, is that there's just this overall needing to adjust, needing to streamline, needing to organize based on this new world, this new vision for the future that we all have, and this foundational period of getting adjusted. And when I talk about the new world, I'm talking about Pluto moving into Aquarius. I'm talking about the AI era that we're entering, the era of robots and drones and driverless cars and ubiquitous surveillance and, you know, space travel and, you know, cryptocurrency and digital currency and doing everything over the ether. Like, you know what it is, but I'm just saying that's, you know, and this world is picking up, and the old world is becoming a more and more distant figment of our imagination. And we have to adjust our lives. And Mars and Virgo is here to say, you know, make your to-do list, get it done, you know, and get rid of everything you don't need, you know, streamline, organize. And I think that, yeah, anyway, I don't want to get too stuck on that. On the 22nd, there's so much more I could say about that. And in terms of the war, again, I think that the generals and the different parties are perfecting their strategy, they're organizing, they're enlisting. You see all that going on the broader collective level. On June 22nd, Mars and Virgo is forming the sextile with Jupiter and Cancer. For my Virgos and my Cancers, for all my earth and water signs, very, very fertile if you're trying to conceive. But again, if you're trying to grow anything from a garden to your hair to money to a business to whatever, this is great opportunity to grow things here. And on 6/23, June 23rd, the Quincunx to Pluto. So Mars is in a yod, a finger of God, the focal point of a finger of God, with Pluto in Aquarius and then Saturn and Neptune and Aries. And that's why this is such an important Mars and Virgo transit, because this is our first Mars and Virgo transit in the new world that is being born. And so this Mars and Virgo, I think, is really here to help us, even though it may cause some tension and irritation, because, you know, it's annoying when things aren't functioning as smoothly as they can. And sometimes that process of needing to streamline and become more efficient and edit and get rid of what you don't need can be not the most fun, but it's makes things better and more functional and productive going forward. And so that's kind of what I feel like about this Mars being the focal point of this yod, or a finger of God, with Pluto, who is, you know, transforming, you know, us into this Aquarian era, and then Saturn and Aries and Neptune and Aries that are getting us ready for this new start. They're all kind of working together to develop this new world. And Mars in Virgo is trying to help us get organized for this new world, help us kind of purge, cleanse, detox, declutter, get rid of everything we don't need, and then streamline and organize the hell out of what we do have, and, you know, move forward with like real focus and attention to detail. And that's kind of the Virgo thing. And so yeah, then on the 26th, Pluto is also the focal point of another yod, but I'm not talking about Pluto in this video. So, but there's a couple yods going on. Pluto and Mars are both focal points. So there is a lot of you know, there's a lot of transformation going on that is very slow moving. It may be imperceptible to the naked eye, but it is going on. And right now, the universe, the invitation from the universe with Mars going through Virgo is again to just, you know, get organized and streamline. Focus. On the 26th, the Sun in Cancer sextile Mars in Virgo. Again, very fertile opportunities for all the earth and water signs. Great for growing things, great for creativity, you know, and great for manifesting, you know. But it's an opportunity. You know, it's subtle. You could miss it if you're not paying attention. So it's good to know when it's hitting your planets, what houses it's in. So you have this kind of awareness, and you can meet the opportunity and cultivate it if you so choose. Good to know your chart. Now on the 20th of July, this is a big one. This is the opposition, Mars opposing the nodes of the north node of fate, Mars conjunct the south node of fate. This is a big, this is happening at 19 degrees. So this, when I say for personally, anyone who has 16 degrees to, you know, 22 degrees of the mutable signs will be very personally affected by this. This is a karmic turning point. This is a time of, you know, paying karmic debts. It's a time of possibly severing, loss, exit, release, separation. And yeah, and it can be a very spiritual time, I think, for Virgos. And again, this is going to affect Virgo, Pisces, Gemini the most. It's a little different for the earth signs and the water signs. It is still a karmic turning point, but it will not be as harshly experienced, probably. It will probably be a very easy release or letting go, whereas with the mutable signs, they may experience it more as a painful release. And again, I'm talking about people with 16 to 22 of the mutable signs who will experience this personally. And this is going to be if you have your nodes there, sun, moon, rising, midheaven. It can bring miscommunications or drama around romantic relationships, children. You know, it can have to do with pleasure, addictions. And as far as the world stage, this is interesting because for Puffy, July 20th is a very important date. This is his exact nodal return. I was thinking about doing a whole video on his astrology. I'm on the fence about whether I'm going to do that or not, but I know that July 20th is a big date. To me, it looks like that would be the date that the verdict comes in, or else if the verdict comes in sooner than that date, then that would be the date of the sentencing. But July 20th is a major, major date in the Puffy trial. And let me know in comments if you want me to do a video on the astrology of the verdict. I can do a forecast on what the dates will be of the verdict, the sentencing, and what it will be based on the astrology. If you're interested in me doing that, put it in comments and I will. On the 23rd, and then also, aside from Puffy on the world stage, this is going to be something to do with a major health announcement that's probably going to be made, a global kind of health announcement. And there can also be a big turning point with, you know, regarding a religion or something like that, you know. So there's a lot about health, about spirituality, about service, all of that. And then on the 23rd, Mars is squaring Venus. Mars in Virgo squaring Venus in Gemini at 21 degrees. So this will most personally affect people who have planets from 18 degrees to 24 degrees of the mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces. But the cosmic lovers are squaring off. So this can bring lovers' quarrels. When the cosmic lovers square off, it means they're either gonna fuck or they're gonna fight. Excuse my language. Whew, I've just been on one this video, and it's long. It's such a long video. I'm sorry. If you've stuck with me till the end, thank you so much. I had no intention on making this video so long, but I guess I just was like breaking it on down. Anyway, so yeah, the cosmic lovers are squaring off Venus and Mars, July 23rd. So yeah, that can be lovers' quarrels. It's, again, they're both ruled by Mercury. I think Mercury may be retrograde at this time. I didn't write it down, but I think, and so Mercury is in Leo, I believe, at this time. And so there can definitely be, you know, arguments and bickering in relationships. You know, Virgo and Gemini like to bicker when they're squaring each other. It's like, you know, who has the more clever, cutting comeback, or sometimes it can just be people being overly critical of each other, sharp words. It can be, this can also bring just worry and anxiety around relationships. Sometimes with Mars square Venus and Gemini, you know, Venus may be in love with two people at the same time and she has to cut one of them off, type of thing. You know, like, there's so many different ways that the archetypes can present. But you know, and then for writers, again, this is a lot about, I think, story development. And so, you know, sometimes the most challenging aspects in everyday life are really good for the creative process, also challenging in the creative process, but it's like once we solve those problems, the work becomes better and more interesting because we've gone beyond the cliche. So anyway, my advice for Mars and Virgo in general: purge, cleanse, detox, declutter, organize, streamline. Don't be too critical of yourself or others. Progress, not perfection. Perfectionism doesn't exist. It's great that you can be a high achiever. Yeah, have a to-do list, have a daily routine. You know, use this time to get on top of your health regimen, get on top of your eating regimen, get on top of your exercise regimen. Yeah, that's, you know, this Mars and Virgo can be used for a lot of good. And contact me for a reading, you know, and see where Mars is moving through your chart. What house it's moving through affects things differently, you know. If it's moving through one of the houses of your body, then it could be more of a physical thing that you're going through. If it's going through your financial houses, then it's a financial thing. If it's going through your work house, then it's at work. If it's going through your house of children, it might have to do with what your kids are going through. If it's going through your 7th house, it could have to do with what your spouse is going through, or have to do with your romantic relationships. If it's going through your 9th house, maybe it has to do with travel. And so it's good to know your chart and to work with an astrologer really over time, but at least get your chart done once if you have not already. And I would love to read for you. I read on Zoom, so I can read for people anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. Thank you so much for joining me. May you have the most productive and not too critical Mars and Virgo experience over these next 6 weeks. And definitely go back and watch the Saturn and Aries video, the Neptune and Aries video, those videos, and also the Pisces and Virgo on the north and south node axis, because that's a year and a half. Neptune is 14 years, Saturn is 3 years. But when you understand, you know, I break all these videos down planet by planet, but when putting it together holistically, it's all the threads of our life that create the tapestry of our lives, of our psychology, our relationships, the events around us, the plot line of our life, our destiny, our karma. It's all in the astrology. It's so fascinating, and I just love it. And so thank you for joining me. Wow, what a long video. Thanks so much if you're still here.